We are on the cusp of a major social change. Do you feel it? Even if you don't, make no mistake, change is coming, and it is going to be unforgettable. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Hart, and here on Prime Spark, where we work with and on behalf of women over 55, I want to help you find that spark that will ignite your way forward, reflect your gifts to the world, and illuminate your path through this next stage of life. Through these podcast conversations, I hope to inspire you to see how you can make a significant contribution to some of the gnarly problems that are facing us right now. Join me, and together let's discover our Prime Spark. Hi, and welcome to Prime Spark. I'm Sarah Hart, and I'm so happy you're here with us. Prime Spark is designed for women over 55, or close, with a goal to help us all live our happiest, most fulfilling, and productive lives, now and in the future. The mission of Prime Spark is to change the way our society sees and treats older women. That's a big mission, which only means we all need to be involved, and we need to get going now. And today I have the great pleasure of talking with Berit Lewis, a woman whose work I greatly admire. Berit Lewis is the author of the book, Aging Upwards, a mindfulness-based approach to the longevity revolution. The book suggests a mindfulness-based framework to embrace life after 50 with acceptance, self-compassion, and mental flexibility. Berit Lewis is the owner of Thriving Life, offering workshops, courses, and retreats in mental well-being, as well as being an experienced and accredited mindfulness teacher. She holds a BA honors in psychology, an MSc in vitality and aging, and an MA in communication, and has carried out mindfulness-based vitality and aging research in cooperation with Leiden University Medical Center and Leiden Academy of Vitality and Aging in the Netherlands. Berit is Danish and lives in the Netherlands with her Welsh husband and 2 teenagers. Welcome, Berit. I'm so happy that you're here with us today.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm so honored to be here.
So just in getting started, let me ask you, do you experience getting older? And if you do, what is that experience? And if you don't, why is it that you think that you don't?
Oh, I experience getting older. I think we all do one way or another. But for me, the experience of getting older is just the experience of living. I don't separate the two. I think aging is living. And so the natural challenges and natural changes that happens in life, for me, that is a part of aging. And I think internally, it's about getting wiser, learning along the way. And physically, it's also a journey. Of course, there are things that I less able to do than when I was younger. Well, actually, maybe I'm still able to do the same thing, but maybe I don't do it as fast as I did when I was younger. So yeah, I'm definitely aging, but I'm happy to.
So many women I interview say sort of the same thing. It's really interesting. And I don't know how long it's going to take the world to catch up with how things really are, because so many of us are internally fine. I mean,
Yeah.
our bodies change, and you deal with it well, or you don't deal with it well, or whatever. But internally, it's I'm the same. In fact, it's better. So it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So in this wonderful new book of yours, and everybody, you need to get this book, Aging Upwards. You say mindfulness-based framework for aging will be really helpful. Can you briefly explain that to us? And you may need to start with mindfulness, just in case any listeners. I saw that's so popular now, but just in case.
Yeah, and you're completely right. It's a buzzword, right? Everybody knows about it, but nobody really knows what it is unless they try it out. So there's a lot of myths about it, and it's also because it's a complicated thing, because it's not something that we can learn alone with our heads and intellect from reading a book. It's something that has to be experienced with the body. And what it is to me, if I was to say it in one word, is awareness. You start often with something that helps your attention, because I often describe it when I go out and talk. I say, I take a glass from one of the canals out here in the Netherlands, and I come in and I have this really murky water, and I say, this is what our brains look like. It's really messy in there, and it's always swirling around. But if you manage to be able to sit and pay attention and sustain that attention, and that can be anything from just your breath, which is the classic one, or feet on the floor, some body sensation, and you're able to sustain your attention for longer and longer, what will happen is that this murky water will start to settle at the bottom, and things become a little bit more clearer, and it's not so messy in there anymore. And you start to see the patterns that you have taught yourself throughout life, these ideas about who am I and what am I supposed to be, especially when we talk about aging. What are you supposed to do when you are past 50, and so on? So all these patterns that we tell ourselves are truth. We start to see them, and you can step back from them, and you can say, oh, is that really true? Is that limiting me from doing what I want to do? And also, you also see that we have some really strong innate patterns in our brain, which is really the way that our brains have evolved, is to keep us safe, so avoiding dangers. And that means that we are running away from a lot of discomfort and pain, and it will help us stay safe, but it will not necessarily help us have a mental well-being and be happy. So once you start to step away from all of these things, you start to see the patterns, and you can then ask yourself, is this who I want to be? Is this the way I want to react? Is this the way I want to live my life and respond to the world? And then you can say, maybe I want to do something else. So it gives you the freedom to step out of this automatic pilot that we tend to live in if we don't actually become aware, and make new choices. So that's why I think mindfulness is a brilliant way to live our lives, and it's a tool, and it's a way of living that allows you to improve your life along the way.
You think you can actually develop mindfulness without having some kind of a meditation practice?
I think you can, yes. A lot of people, there are research out there who's like testing people's mindful traits, and some people are just more mindful than others naturally, or maybe it happened in the way they grew up. So yes, we can be more mindful without meditating, but I like to think that the meditation is like, it boosts it, I would say, because you are deliberately taking time out to see things, so you don't so easily get distracted and caught up, and you can practice in a safe place. So a lot of mindfulness is also about meeting the difficulties with kindness and compassion. And that's hard to do if you're in the middle of life and there's people watching you and you have to respond quickly to whatever it is that's challenging. But if you can go to your own safety at home and sit on your mat and experience or investigate these emotions that might have come up in a previous incident, or the difficulties with worries and thoughts about what could happen in the future, and meet them with curiosity and compassion, then you're much more able to do so when you're out in the real world and have to do it on the spot. So I think it's definitely helping. It's helping me a lot, and my families are sometimes telling me if I'm a little too responsive or too reactive, they say, I think it's time that you go and do a bit of meditation. You haven't been meditating for a while, have you? So they can tell the difference.
Well, I've been meditating for a long time, and you know, some days it's quote successful, and some days it's not. But,
Yeah.
and I have, as I was reading your book, I was thinking, I don't think that I could develop very strong mindfulness without a meditation practice,
No.
because anyway, I just got curious about that. So
Yeah.
talk about your own life and how that led you to being interested in the potential impact of mindfulness on aging. That's a really fascinating combination.
Yeah, it's a personal journey, because 14 years ago, my husband was offered a job here in the Netherlands, and we moved. And I was very happy with the move at the time. We had 2 young children and very stressed life. And but after we got here, I was all of a sudden, oh my God, who am I if I'm not married to my work anymore? And I can call myself a communication consultant, which was what I did in my previous life, I would almost say. And that got me into psychology, because I started to go back to university in order to create a new me, a new career, a new life for myself. And at the same time, I also got interested in mindfulness. And I went on a silent retreat for 5 days, and I had never done anything like that before. And it was in order to learn mindfulness, because I didn't know what it was at the time. And the teacher there said, that I think it was on the second day or the third day, she said, I bet you all have some kind of physical challenge right now, because your body is not used to sitting still for so long. Because what you do on a silent retreat is like 30 minutes sitting, 30 minutes walking meditation, 30 minutes sitting. So there's a lot of sitting, and that's not nice if you're not used to it for your body. And so she said to us, you all have maybe pain in your back or your feet or your legs or whatever. And I had on my back, my lower back was killing me. And she said, you have 2 options. You can either change the way that you sit, so change the world, change the situation. And if that's not possible, then you can change the way that you approach things in life. And so I tried the first thing, and it didn't help. I couldn't sit in any other way that would help me. So I changed it, and I went beyond that initial, I don't want this pain. Pain is bad. And I went in and I explored. Okay, so if it has a color, what color would that physical sensation in my back be? Does it move? Is it still? Is it warm? Is it cold? Does it have a texture? And all of those things sort of got me to step back and explore my pain in a different way. And it was still there throughout the whole retreat. It was there, but I was able to let it be. And then at the same time, focus on my breath or whatever it was that I chose to do. So I got out of there and thinking, wow, this is such a fantastic ability, because that's life, right? You can so easily get caught up in all the things that's going wrong, and they are like taking over your thoughts and your body and your mindset. Or you can also choose to let it be there as part of life and not run away from it. And so that's what I started. I taught mindfulness, and I became a mindfulness teacher. And then COVID happened, and all my jobs were cancelled. And because my husband is Welsh and I live in the Netherlands, I'm Danish, and my children go to American school, we are quite international, and we always talk about what's a good life. And my husband and I always talk about where we're going to live, where we're going to retire one day. And so I thought, okay, this is the opportunity to find out what's a good life. So I thought I'll go out and interview all these people and write a book about it. and just around the corner here, there's Leiden University, and I found out they had a master in vitality and aging there. So I thought, wow, there must be some clever people there I can interview. And then I realized it was only 1 year, the master, and I thought, well, it's COVID, I'm stuck here at home anyway. So I thought, okay, let's do it. So I did the master, and as part of that, I created and I taught and I did some qualitative research into a mindfulness-based course for how to cope with aging. And what I found was that it was all women who signed up. We have a tendency, I don't know why, you know all about that. And they all got back to me and said that this mindfulness practice gave them another way of meeting difficulties. So because that was another thing I found when I was doing the studying, it was all about running away from aging. Like, how do we stay young for as long as possible? How do we avoid getting wrinkled? How do we avoid getting, gray hair or whatever it is? And there's not much research done on how to cope with the natural process of aging, which we will all go through one way or another. So I thought mindfulness must be the way to do this. At least it helps, and it helps everybody else just with different things. So when I'm teaching teenagers, or when I teach people who's on the verge of burnout or stressed in corporate life, and then teaching people who are older, it's the same tools I'm teaching. It's the same life skills, but it's just different things that we're challenged with. But it works for everything, and that makes it just even more brilliant, right? Which also means that the younger we start, the better we are once we hit 50 or 60 or 80, because then it has become a lifestyle and it's not as hard to start.
That's wonderful. Thinking about how to get from here to there about your own journey. You talk also about the difference between getting old and growing old. Can you explain that? That's fascinating.
Well, it's really related to your first question about us. We're all getting older, but we can choose to grow older. We can choose to let it inspire us. We can choose to use all our knowledge. We can use to be open to new things and not get stuck in our ways. That's what I mean by growing. It's that continuous curiosity, continuous ability to step out of autopilot and do something different all the time, so that we challenge ourselves.
You run into a lot of pushback with this, or do people accept it?
So far, it's been very positive, I would say. Yeah, I think maybe the people who do not accept what I'm saying has not confronted me yet. But I don't know. Somebody asked me the other day if I was going to write another book, and I said, yeah, maybe once I'm 60 and 70, I might know better. Maybe I was wrong when I wrote this book when I was in my 50s, because I don't know how it's like, so I'm very open to anybody who says otherwise, and teach me something for sure.
It will be interesting to see. I can't imagine why it would be, but is mindfulness, is the use of mindfulness in working with aging different at 50, 60, 70, 80? I
would say my experience when I've been teaching it has been that it's easier to teach older people, because I think it's because they had more time. So they were not, because when I teach it in corporations, it's usually to very stressed out people who are so busy, and they would love to spend more time on this, but they simply don't have the time. So I think older people maybe have a little bit more space. And I also think that they have experience to hook it onto more than, of course, when you are in your early 30s or 20s even. So yes, I think it's different for sure.
My
Yeah.
experience in working with Prime Spark is
Yeah.
I have, on occasion, talked to women. I deal specifically with women, talk to women about it. And in a handful of instances, they've gotten really angry. And I didn't
Okay.
understand why. And finally, one woman said to me, Sarah, I don't want to think about getting older.
All
I
right.
thought, oh, isn't that fascinating? So it's sort of
Right.
like, if we don't think about getting older, we
Yeah.
won't. Just like we don't think about death,
Yeah.
we won't die.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I could imagine that younger people might not want to think about
Yeah.
aging because
Yeah.
it has such a negative connotation in the world.
For
I mean,
sure.
I don't know. I don't think that's true of all societies, but it's certainly true of a lot of societies.
I think you're right for sure. But and I can relate to that. Of course, it's the future. We don't know what can happen, and we all hear these scenarios. You know, we see people who's not living happy lives and suffering in a lot of ways. So for sure, I can understand why there's a fear there. But the funny thing is that when we run away from all this discomfort, quite often we are just making it stronger because we can't push it away. It like often, we've all been there, for instance, lying at night and wanting to fall asleep, and we just can't sleep. And what we do is we constantly think, I don't want to think about it. I just want to sleep, go away, shut down brain and mind. And the more we get into that state, the harder it is to sleep, and it becomes more and more suffering. And that, in the book, I'm also writing about primary and secondary suffering. And the primary is all of these things that happens to us that's unavoidable. It's part of life. And then the secondary is all of these thoughts that we put onto it, and all the emotions and the running away from it, that's causing extra. It's just adding to the pain, and that's avoidable. We don't have to have that, but it's hard, and that's why I think we should learn this from. I wish all children learned this at school, because it's a life skill that really makes life so much easier.
It's interesting when you talk about running away from. I just suddenly was very sharply reminded of one of the meditation retreats I was on this several years ago now. I had even more intense pain in my back. I don't know why it was more intense, but who knows why. And I thought, I can't do this, and I kept trying to get it to be better. I kept trying to, I don't want this. I want to be quiet. And I realized it was only getting worse.
Yeah.
And what I learned that day was, if I go right into the middle of it, it changes. It moves around.
Yeah.
And it would even go away for brief periods.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, what a lesson. What a lesson.
It's exactly, I think that's similar to what I was describing and experiencing, for sure. Yeah. It doesn't mean that it goes away, unfortunately. We can't meditate our way out of pain, but it certainly makes it easier to relate to. Yeah. I often also, I think I wrote that in the book, that it's a bit like having a small coffee cup, and you put a teaspoon of salt in it, and it completely ruins the taste of the coffee. But if you're able to sort of broadening out and let that pain or discomfort be there, but then also being aware of all the other things that are here in this moment, then all of a sudden that salt is still there, but it's dissolved into something bigger, as if it was like a big soup bowl or something that it was dissolved into, and that makes it more bearable.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us about your distinction between successful aging and aging mindfully, because there's a lot being written now about aging successfully, successful aging. So how do you see that?
I think the whole term successful aging it's got a right within the academic world, where they're trying to of course, develop something that's stopping illness or age-related challenges. Because when you're doing, you have to have an intervention, and you've got to be able to see the result of your intervention before and after. But for people like you and me and living everyday life, I think the whole term successful aging is just telling us that we are inadequate all the time, because we're never going to be successful aging, because aging is natural. So of course we will age. And anyway, what's the alternative? That's dying, basically. So then I don't want to be successful in that way. So I think, and also another thing is, successful is like this objective thing. Somebody's telling me how to live my life. But for me, it's different to everybody else. Like we're all different human beings, and people tend to see people over a certain age. Oh, I hate also all these zoomers and boomers and stereotypes, because we're human beings, and I don't necessarily have more in common with my fellow 50-year-olds as what I do with my fellow Dane or my fellow bike riding people or my fellow people who likes mindfulness. It's we're all complicated people, and so the successful aging is telling us that we should live our lives in a certain way, and we can't. And I think that's shameful. So when we say mindfully, it's more about me being aware of what's good for me and what's helping me, and how can I continue to contribute to the world. And that for me is mindful aging. It's my success. So I'm defining the term successful.
Yeah, because successful aging, it seems to suggest that there's an unsuccessful aging.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Who of us want to be unsuccessful? I mean,
yes,
so
yes, yeah. And is it something we can hit each other over the head with whenever we don't go running or eat healthy or whatever
right.
we do? Yeah.
You used the words at some point, the longevity revolution.
Yeah.
Why? I agree with you. And why do you think that's happening?
Well, the demographics are changing, of course, because we're living for longer, and I think there's so much talk about, oh my God, this silver tsunami is gonna take our welfare society away, and how are we gonna afford it? But I actually think that we can see it as a catalyst for change. So I'm not just talking about those extra 20 years that we've been given recently, and for us to live better lives in those years, but I'm hoping that it will sort of help us live our lives better throughout life. So instead of having these very separate phases of learning and working and retiring, I'm hoping that we can maybe mix them up on a much more, maybe even daily basis, or at least yearly basis, so that you can have some breaks in between when you're younger. You can continue to learn when you're older. And that way, I think that we're not worn out when we are 60 or 70. We can maybe last for longer. And we also have a much more sense of purpose and ability to continue to contribute to society for much longer, because we didn't wear ourselves out when we were younger. So I think it's a golden opportunity for us to say, okay, we're now living 100 years, right? We have to change this society so that it's more healthy, both for the individual, but also on a societal level and financially as well.
So when you say that mindfulness can help us on individual and also on a society level, is that what you mean?
Yeah, because so the mindfulness comes in the way that by being more mindful, we're more aware of what's limiting us. We're aware of all this ageism that's around, because it's so ingrained in our society that we don't even notice it. And we internalize these patterns, and that's stopping us. It's stopping us from continuing to live long, fruitful, engaged lives, because society both people around us, but certainly also within us, is telling us that we shouldn't do that. And all changes, when we are changing a culture, it has to come from outside and inside. And I think, well, we can't change the society overnight, but we can find a way to navigate in the society we live in right now. And then we will naturally also affect the people around us. And mindfulness is often thought of as like an inner journey, but I really think that that's changing the world. If we were much more mindful and less reactive and more aware of our actions and more aware of what the world is doing to us, then it would be a different world.
So, Berit, what's next? Another book maybe at some point, but when you look ahead and you think, oh, I really hope I can, or I really intend to, or a dream is, what's there?
Right now, I'm so engaged in what I do right now, so I can see myself doing that for many, many years and developing that. But my dream is that it really ties in with also what I said earlier when I talked to my husband, where are we going to live? Because my daughter is leaving this summer. She's off to college, and so the next step is moving somewhere. I think, I don't know, but continuing to do what I'm doing all over the world, and I hope to do more. I really love doing retreats. I really love to get people together and build this really close community and teach and help people, inspire people. And I love to do much more of that in the future. So where that is, I don't know.
Oh, that's very exciting. I'm sure you are, but are you aware of the Modern Elder Academy?
I am, yes.
Okay, because that would be a wonderful place for you to teach.
It would, yes, but then I would have to go to America.
Yes, you would. That is exactly
again,
right.
Depends where my children
right
are.
now it's in Mexico. So
that's true. That's true. I would, that would be wonderful as well.
Mexico,
for
sure.
Yeah. So, but that's another thing, there's so many opportunities opening up now that people are always, crying over the empty nest. And yes, of course, I can feel that, but I also see it as a brilliant opportunity to do more new things.
Yeah, just as you say that, what it feels like is yes, and it's just a wonderful opening.
Yeah.
And in order to have something new, that's people say that in order to have something new, you need to make space, and it's making space. It probably literally is making space, but it's
yes.
So this has been wonderful, Berit. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So my website is www.thrivinglife.eu. And from there, you can basically get to all my other channels. I've got a Substack that's called Aging Upwards, and that's basically it. Go from there, thrivinglife.eu.
So tell us what a Substack is.
Oh, Substack is like it's a blog, but it's another kind of social media in the way that it's not about getting as many likes as possible, but more about writing, qualitative writing. And so you get a closer community that way. I like that a lot.
Nice. Okay, so that's our time today. Please join us again. You can find our Prime Spark podcast on every popular outlet. Find out more about Prime Spark at www.primesparkwomen.com. Thank you so much to my guest, Berit Lewis. It has been charming. And don't forget, you can find her at thrivinglife.eu. So check it out, and check out the Substack. So, thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you, all our listeners. Take care. Spread tolerance and love. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to stay updated, you can head over to my website, primesparkwomen.com, and get my free Spark Guide, 7 questions to ignite your spark, to help you discover your own spark. See you in the next episode.